Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Name.
And of course, we are doing the Zot haBracha, the very last Parsha, and it's poetry. And I was thinking this morning about, what underneath is there something underneath it all, besides the fact that Moses wants to leave his life blessing the Jewish people? Is there something in the specific blessings themselves that has a deeper meaning to it? And right now, I mean, I'm just focused on trying to understand the pshat of the language because it still is speaking metaphorically, and whether or not there's a deeper message in all of this as well. But at this point, I guess I can't really focus too much on it. Well, we're in the middle of the blessing that Moses is giving the tribe of Gad, and so let's plunge into it. Vayar Reshit Lo. So he saw the first for himself, and I'm purposely leaving that vague because Rashi's going to clarify that. Reshit first also means like choice, so the choicest for himself. We could certainly give a little bit more meaning to this shot or this simple sentence that way. He saw the choicest portion for himself. Kisham chalkat mechokek safun. Why was that the choicest? Interestingly, by the way, something again to meditate. For there, the portion of the lawgiver was buried, was hidden. And the lawgiver, of course, is Moses. And so we're basically saying that it's this is where Mount Nebo is to be found, I guess, and to say this is where Moses is buried. Vayete Rashi Am, he came with the heads of his people. Tzidkat Hashem Asa, the righteous deeds, we're putting that in parentheses, the righteousness of the Lord he performed, Umishpatav im Israel, and his ordinances with Israel. So you can see this is a very arcane text, very difficult to understand, but Rashi will definitely shed light on what's going on here. But it's ambiguous and all those sorts of good things. In other words, who is this? Who is the one who came with the heads of the people? Right? Are we talking about God? Are we talking about Moses? Because we just made a reference to Moses. Questions, right? Vayar Reshit Lo. He saw the choice, the first for himself. Ra'ah Liten Lo Chelek Be'eretz Sichon. So again, the question is a subject because it says he saw that it was fitting. He saw to give to him, right? So is this Moses speaking? Because of course Moses is the one who's saying these words too. Chelek, a portion, be'eretz Sichon ve'og, in the land of Sichon, King Sichon and King Og, shahaya reshit kavush haaretz, which was, so the reshit, Rashi is telling us, is the reshit refers to the first peoples conquered in the conquest of the land. And that's why he saw the Reshit, that the Reshit refers to the lands of Sichon and Og. Ki sham chelkat mechokek, right? So ki yada asher sham benachalato chelkat sadeh. So he saw because he knew, ki yada, because he knew or he realized that there in his portion, right, in his allotment, chelkat sadeh, a part of the field, a portion of the field, furat mechokek, would be the burial place of the lawgiver, Vahu Moshe, and we're talking about Moses. So who's the subject of the sentence? Are we talking again back? Are we talking about God and the portion that they wanted to take for themselves? Or are we talking about Moses, who knew he would be buried there, etc.? It's not very clear. It is a puzzle, but at least we have a better sense of of the general context of this particular part of the blessing. Safun, we've had this word before in this blessing actually, and I've translated as buried or hidden. Otah chelkat sfuna, that particular little portion of Moses's grave, sfuna, it is hidden, utmuna, and is buried, mikol bria. It's totally unknowable. People don't have no idea where this place is, and that's the safun. Shinemar, as it states a little later on in chapter 34 of Deuteronomy, Velo yada ish et kurato, and not a soul knew his burial place, his kever, his grave. So, of course, it's an issue that we don't know where Moses is buried. We don't have a site of his burial because we don't want to worship him in case people would come and worship him. So that's at least the most obvious reason for why we don't know where he's buried. There may be other literary suggestions by that as to what that brings up. Vayete, this is an Aramaism, is to come, God. So we're talking about God coming. This is one interpretation. Rashi Am, the heads of the people. This is a beautiful interpretation. Heim hayu holchim lifnei hachalutz. The fact is, if you remember that the tribe of God was one of the tribes that wanted to settle in the lands of Sichon and Og, which was on the east side of the Jordan. It hadn't been originally assigned to the Jewish people. And when they told Moses that they had sheep, they had many sheep, etc., and they wanted to settle there, Moses was not pleased with them and thought they were going to, once they had their own place, they wouldn't bother helping with the conquest that still had to come. And the tribe of God was one of the tribes that made a commitment to go in the vanguard of those who, of the people who were going to go on to conquer the land. So this is the Reshit, right? Here too, that he was going to be amongst the first. Lefisha hayu giborim, and this is because they were valiant people. And this is interesting because it feels like it's a little bit of a contradiction to what Rashi said earlier on, which of course he bases on texts that he has read in the Gemara and the Midrash, that God was one of the 5 tribes that needed to have their names doubled in order to give them greater strength. So maybe this is now that they've gotten the greater strength, now they can do it. So, v'chein hu omer, and thus it also states in Numbers 32. This is where this whole incident where God wants to take this territory. Va'atim ta'avru chalutzim, and you shall set out as the vanguard lifnei achechem, before your brothers, etc. So that's the Reshit. And then in that case, does that mean Vayar, he saw, meaning Moses? In other words, Moses saw that they were going to be that they were going to be in the vanguard of the army. Tzidkat Hashem Asa, they performed righteous acts of the Lord. She'eminu divrehem, because they validated their words with actions. V'shamru haftachatam, and they kept their promise. La'avur et hayarden, to cross the Jordan, ad shekivshu v'chalku, up until Joshua was able to conquer and then subdivide the land. So that's one understanding of this Reshit law, right? Vechelko, right, is his portion. Sorry, of a chalku. That's part of the previous sentence. Forgive me. Davar acher, a different interpretation. Vayete Moshe Rashe'am. So the Vayate, right up here, Vayete, refers to Moses, because we just talked about Chelkat Mechoket Safun. That's talking about Moses. So the subject here is Moses again, right? Moshe Rashe'am, the leads along with the heads of the people. Tzidkat Hashem Asa. So again, it's easy to see how righteous acts of the Lord he performed, referring to Moses. Al Moshe Amor, This is referring to Moses. This is talking about Moses. So onwards. Uladan Amar. So now he's going to address Dan, the tribe of Dan. And again, repeats the name. Dan Gur Aryeh. Dan is a lion's whelp. Yizanek min habashan. He pours forth from Bashan. So squirt, it really is referring to water that's sort of spouting hard. Dan Gur Aryeh, Dan is a lion's whelp. Afhu haya samuch laspar. His territory was also on the border, right next to the border. Lefichach moshlo ba'ariot. And for this reason, Moses compares him to lions. Yizanek min habashan, right? It pours out, it squirts out from, I don't love the word squirt, I have to tell you, because it sounds like a very small amount of water, but it's really talking about a large flow. Ketargumo, so it is the way the Onkelos translates this. Okay, so Dan Takif Kigur Ayan, Dan is powerful like a lion's whelp. Ar'e Shatya min Nachalai, so his land drinks from the rivers de Nagdan min Matnan. I think de Nagdan means that issue forth from Matnan, Matnan being a place. So let's see what Rashi does this. Shaya hayarden yotze mechalko, because the Jordan, the initial place where the origin of the Jordan River starts there, goes out from his portion, Mima'arat Pamyas, from the cave of Pamyas, and Pamyas is probably just a shortened form of Ptolemaeos, Ptolemy. So Pamyas is probably just a corruption of the word Ptolemy. So there's a cave that's known as Pamyas. It's also known as Banyas. That's because Arabs cannot pronounce the letter P. They pronounce it as a B, as in boy. So they pronounce it Banyas. Vehi Leshem. It's the name of the place. It's also Panyas is also Leshem. Shehi b'chalko shel Dan, which turns out to be in Dan's territory. Shinemar, how do we know this? Joshua chapter 19, Vayikru leLeshem Dan, and they referred to Leshem as Dan. They renamed it to Dan. Vezinuko vekilucho, and its outpouring and its flow, min habashan, comes from Bashan, that area known as Bashan. Davar acher, another interpretation. Ma zinuk ze yotze mimakom echad, just as this flow of water comes out from one place, v'nechalach l'shnei makomot, and it can be divided up go to two places, comes from one but goes into two, kach shivshto shel Dan, so likewise was the behavior of the tribe of Dan. Natlu chelek b'shnei makomot. They took a portion in two different areas. Tchila, initially Natlu b'tzfonit maravit. So originally they took in the northwest corner, northwest area of Israel. So it looks like Ekron usvivotea. I'm assuming this is the town of Ekron and its surroundings. Velo safku lahem, and it wasn't enough space for them. They did not have enough space. Uva v'nilchamu im Leshem, and so they went and they battled against Leshem, the city of Leshem. Let's see here. Shehi Pamyas, Leshem and Pamyas are identical. Vehi b'tzfonit mizrachit, and that is on the northeast side. Shaharei hayarden yotzeh mimrat Pamyas, because of course we note that the Jordan River issues from the cave of Pamyas. Vehu b'mizracha shel Eretz Yisrael, and that is on the east side of the land of Israel. It's right up there. It was held by Syria for a long time. I think it's still held by Israel now. Uva mehatzafon ledarom, and he came from the north to the south. V'chala b'ktzei Yam Melech. I think he's talking about the Jordan River here, and it ends up at the top end of the Dead Sea. The Salt Sea is what it's called. Shehu Mizrach Yehuda, which is on the east of Judah. Shenatal bidroma shel Eretz Yisrael, that he took to the south of the land of Israel. I think we're talking about Judah here. Kamoshe Meforash B'Sefer Yehoshua, again, as it's explained in the book of Joshua. Vahu Shinemar, and that's what's related to by saying in chapter 19, Vayetze Gvul B'nei Dan, and the border of the tribe of Dan, Mehem, V'ya'alu, okay, was from them, I guess is how we need to understand it. V'ya'alu B'nei Dan, V'yilchamu in Leshem, and the tribe of Dan, the children of Dan, went up and fought against Leshem, etc. Yatzag Vulam Mikol Oto Haruach. So their border went out from that direction or that side. Shehitchilu Lincholbo, that they began to inherit. Go do one more. Ule Naftali Amar, and to Naftali he said, Naftali Svaratzon. Naftali is satiated, he has his desire satisfied. Umale Birkat Adonai, and he is filled with the blessing of Adonai. Yam V'darom Yarasha, so the sea, and here we're talking about the Dead Sea. Oh, sorry, not the Dead Sea, the Kinneret, V'darom and south he inherited. So let's see. So Svaratzon, meaning satisfied. Shahaita artzos sva'ah kol ritzon yoshveha. So because his land would satisfy the desires of its inhabitants, it had plenty to take care of them. It was a fertile area. Yam v'darom yarasha. So the sea and the south he has received as an inheritance. Yam Kinneret, so this Yam is Yam Kinneret, the Lake Tiberias. Nafla bechelko, it fell in his allotment. Venatal melo chevel, and he took a rope's length. I think this is, I don't know if it says cheres or something, bidroma, and apparently this word means a fishing coast. He took one rope's length of the coast around it, bidroma, and on the south, lifrosh haramim umichmarot, in order to spread out or to cast out nets and meshes. Yarasha, its inheritance.
Rabbi, I thought Kinneret was Galilee. So
Yes.
is Galilee, Tiberias, and Kinneret all the same?
Yes, the Sea of Galilee, the Kinneret, and Lake Tiberias are all one and the same.
Okay.
By the way, it's called Kinneret, which means like little harp, and that's because the shape of the lake is like that kind of harp, if you can think of it, the outline of that lake, and that's why it's called Kinneret. Yeah, but it's Lake Tiberias, yeah, from the Roman emperor or governor, perhaps. Yeah, Yarasha. So this is interesting. You might think that this is a past tense, but notice how it isn't Yarasha, it's Yerasha, right? Yerasha. Yam Vidarum Yerasha. And Rashi notes this, and he says, Lashon Sivui. It's actually an imperative. So I don't know if the way we would translate it is, let it be their inheritance. Somehow making it an imperative. Lashon Sivui Kamor, and he gives Ale, Rash, go up and inherit. It's similar in structure to that expression there. V'hatam shelamala baresh, and the fact that the accent is on the resh, Yerasha, right? Baresh, mochiach, it proves kamor that it's an imperative. Kamor Yarash, Yada, okay, probably Yarash, Da, Yada, Lakach, Shema, Shemosif Bohe, Keshemosif Bohe. If you add a hey to the ends of these words. Yehatam lamala. You're going to see that the well, it sounds like he's saying that the accent's going to fall on the I'm going to think it means a lost syllable. Sham'a yad'a
It says next to the last here, penultimate.
penultimate. Okay, thank you, thank you. I was not sure. I could not remember. Okay, so lamala is penultimate. Let's get that in so I remember that for the next time. Okay, so penultimate syllable. Sham. Okay, Sham'a yad'a salcha lakha afkan. So he says here too. Yerasha. Yerasha, Lashon Sivui, it has an imperative sense over Masoret Gedolah. So there are these works where we sometimes talk about the Masoretes, and we're talking about people who would count every letter, how many times a certain letter appeared in the Torah or in the Bible. They looked at the forms of the words, etc., etc. They would analyze the text itself very deeply, and this is known as the Masora Gedola. Matzinu ba'alphabeta. So apparently there's an alphabet, that is an index, an alphabetical index of some kind there. Lashon Sivui, we see that it is given as an example of an imperative, de ta'amehon mil'ela, where their accent falls on the penultimate syllable, like the word melech, right? Not melech, but melech, because normally the accent in the Hebrew word falls on the final syllable. But these,
In the text, they put the stress. I don't know if you can see. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but they put the stress on the middle syllable, Yerasha.
yes, yes. Let me go back, and you can see it. Here, do you see? This is the accent here.
Mm-hmm.
So Yerasha, not Yerasha, where it would fall on the last syllable. Okay.
Rabbi, my English says
Hi.
take possession.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's definitely imperative.
Okay. All right. So the sea, Kinneret, and south take possession. So let me put that in. Thank you. I'll actually put that in there. Okay. It's almost like really like a song of some kind. So
Yeah, that's how JPS has it. They actually have it in paragraphy, like
okay.
stanza sort of forms.
Yes. Cool. I'm going to pop this in, and I think what we're going to do next week during Sukkot is I may go back to Genesis anyway. Let's see. So we read this Parsha on Simchat Torah anyway. Let me stop the share. And good to see all of you. I think I'm going to stop the recording.